Now, our tale continues as our two characters venture further. They venture further north, after having obviously very politely bid their departure to Sir Dragon, Mist the Eternal, as we shall call him. They bid him goodbye. They started working on their way up. Now, it becomes a bit more challenging at this point because night is around the corner, but they haven't quite reached their destination, yet they're so close it would be a pity to turn around now. So they continue walking, and suddenly they start to realize what knowledge the dragon imparted unto them. You see, he didn't give them knowledge of the winning numbers for the lottery, or of some mystical magical art. No. He simply gave them knowledge of the world around them. Now, this might sound boring, of course. It might sound like something quite mundane. Knowledge of the world? How interesting can that possibly be? Well, you'd be surprised. You'd be especially surprised if you knew that knowledge of the world means knowledge of the entire world. Which means that now, as they're walking, they see dryads slipping between trees, going from branch to branch as their forms seem to mix in with the bark, and then reappear as they walk across between two trees, and then disappear again. They see small creatures, of which the names they know not. These little creatures are running around, they're going everywhere. It's madness, actually. You'd be surprised at how many living things there are in a forest, even in the dead of winter. And just as they think, oh well, that was a remarkable encounter, wasn't it? They start talking to each other a little bit more. So they hear a soft voice calling out to them. Excuse me, I believe you can see us. They look around. Nothing to be seen. How strange. Just as they're about to make another step. Halt! Halt! Please, help us. All right. They look around. They don't see anything. How obscure. They've been called to, but no one seems to be there. What could possibly be calling them? Well, as they look down, some small little twigs seem to be waving at them. Misty reaches down, puts her hand flat on the ground, and all 5 of the little twigs hop onto her hand, and then scurry up her arm, and come and sit on her shoulder. Would you be willing to help us? Well, that depends. What can we do for you, little, excuse my offensive tone, but twigs? Oh no, our name is actually Twinks, with a K. But twig, I suppose that works too. That's how you would see us, wouldn't it be? Well, all we need is we need to go and meet up one of our good friends, but he lives very far away. But with your human legs, it's quite nearby. You see, he lives near the marker. Oh, the marker between the 3 states? Oh, is that what they call it these days? Oh, all right. Well, yes, that one. It's got a metal disc on the top of it, and actually, that metal disc is a sort of portal, if you wish, to where we come from. Well, the world in which we reside. You see, the little twigs seems to struggle a bit with their thoughts. Because, of course, these humans are huge, and many of their brethren have been cut down, destroyed, burnt, as humans couldn't recognize their cries. You see, sometimes when you hear a little stick on the ground cracking, it's actually far more terrifying than you think. For them, not for you. Your feet are huge to them. Now, of course, As it is the destination of our two characters, they simply agree. They go along, and as they go along, the little twinks call down to their friends, and so they end up basically holding an entire group of these twinks, these little creatures, sitting in their hair, on their shoulders, on their backpack. And as they go along the path, so many other creatures greet them. Everything from more twinks, some little creatures looking somewhat like garden gnomes, but quite different because they don't have the pointy red hats. No idea where that absurd idea came from. And some rather intriguing creatures, like a bird, with no eyes, but with a very large beak, who greeted them with a small sound, just saying, "Thank you." The twinks explained, well, no one usually helps them, and they're kind of the low end of the food chain. But in fact, they are the equivalent of baby dryads. So that is why the race of dryads is dying out, because people tend to pick up twigs to start firewood. But sometimes those twigs are twinks. So as they walk along, they soon reach the marker. All the twinks thank them. They take a few nice pictures. And surprisingly, on the pictures, the twinks are there, but only as shadows, not quite visible. It's nothing to do with lighting. There's still far enough sunlight in there. There's even a bit of a mystical glow. But still. At that point, they look at the time and, oh no. They're not allowed to be in the park past nightfall, but nightfall is only half an hour away. They hurry on their way, bidding their new little friends goodbye, saying, "We're very sorry, we have to go, we'll be illegal otherwise." To which the twinks just laugh and say, "Illegal? What's that? What absurd word is that?" But it doesn't matter. Off they go. They rush down a path, they rush down another path. They cross the road, and at this point, night has fallen. They start to realize that, thankfully, although it's dark, there's still a bit of light in the air. It almost seems as if someone is lighting the way for them. And just as they start to talk about this, they start to look at each other thinking, wow, it's still quite light considering the time of day. Oh, that's interesting, isn't it? Well, just at that point, a low grumble greets them. "Well, I thought you two might need a bit of assistance getting home. It's bad enough that you bother all of us, but you'd even go and break your own silly little laws. Seems absurd. Well, I'll walk you home." But there's nothing around them. No one's there. Not even mist or fog. Can't possibly be Misty Eternal. How is this light there? Misty speaks out with a soft voice. "Excuse me, where are you?" Sorry, I forgot. I have my cloak on." And then with a thundering noise, a large cloak appears out of nowhere and falls to the ground. And underneath it, a tall man, made entirely of rock, stands before them. And just as they look at him, the rock he's made of seems to glint and change shape. He becomes slightly smaller, closer to their size, but still quite tall and intimidating. And then he looks at them and says, "Well met, Misty Cloud. Misty Eternal, 7922, told me that you two might be passing by and asked me very kindly if I would look after you on your way out of the woods. My name, as you might have guessed, is... well, in human talk, I suppose you'd call me Pebble. But look at me. I'm much more of a boulder. But you see, that was my grandfather. Yeah, names. One of the most absurd things that have ever existed. You can name something, but only its true name really matters. That being said, that's my name. Hello, I'm Pebble. Well met, Pebble, says Cloud. Oh no, you're still stuttering, Cloud. Come on, you've seen enough of our kind now. You're going to see many more of us. I'm sure in your travels in the future. Well, at least that is, if you ever manage to travel again. I hope you will. But I'm sure in your travels you're going to meet many more of my kind. You're probably going to have to learn a bunch more languages too. So just stop stuttering. I'm sorry. I'll try, says Cloud, with a bit of a louder voice. Ah, that's better. See, Misty had it down. She knew that you shouldn't stutter. If we're going to kill you, we're going to have done it already. And honestly, well, none of us really want to. Excuse me, Pebble, I was wondering, how is it that most of you don't speak with the local accent? And also, how on earth are you all speaking English? Ah, well, you see, many of us are actually immigrants. Just like you humans, actually. Because our brethren from this area kind of got, well, scared when humans started invading our territories. And a lot of them left and went much further west. Now, the problem is that because we all came over as immigrants, well, they kind of never came back and they don't really like us. But if ever you meet them, it's very distinguishable because, you know, like all that weird American accent to them. Because they picked up their English from the first settlers and, yeah, let's just say we don't understand them too well. It's supposedly still English, but I'm not so sure about that. Now, why we all speak English? Well, because we're not stupid. Sorry, Pebble, that's not what I meant. No, I know that's not what you meant. You thought we were going to speak some mythical language, like in your silly little books that you all read. Well, we don't. We actually speak mostly common tongues. I mean, obviously the older ones of us speak older languages too. I mean, heck, if you'd asked Mist, he would have told you that he prefers speaking Latin to people. But when's the last time you met someone who can understand fluent Latin? It's probably been a while. See, because he actually came over from Italy originally. That's where he used to reside. Down in Venice, I believe. Yes, well, no, we speak English. Some of us speak French. Some of us speak Dutch. Most of us tend to speak older languages too, like Aramaic. But we tend not to really use that anymore because, well, no one understands it. And all the young ones, well, they just want to go and watch TV. Yeah, believe it or not, yes. Yes, even my children want to go and watch TV. Massive rock creatures that we are, and they think it's a good idea to sneak into human houses during the night time and turn on their televisions. And then people wonder why their couches are broken. Well, that being said, you guys better get a wriggle on because, you know, I can't really hold the lantern for too long. This thing does burn my hands because, you know, it's basically just a ball of fire on my hand. Would you mind? Just hurry up, please. Oh, terribly sorry, Pebble. We'll definitely hurry up. So on those words, the three of them trotted down the path and kept exchanging stories. Interestingly enough, modern ones. You know, politics, religion, boring things like who was the new player in some football team that Pebble loved, and neither of the two knew about it. And of course, the moment they told him where they were from, he said, "Oh yes, I've got cousins in Korea. I love them." And Misty was like, "But Pebble, when last did you see your cousins?" "Oh, well, we don't see each other often, but we have ways of communicating. You see, the rain dragons are actually brilliant messengers. Because all they do is they go up into the clouds with all our letters and all our messages, and then they rain down somewhere else. They gather more and they drop off the ones that need to be dropped off there. And it sometimes takes a while. Sometimes it can take up to 5 years. But that's all right. I mean, I've been alive for about 400, so it's not too much of a problem." "Pebble, you're 400 years old." "Oh, don't say that. That makes me sound old. I'm only 397. I haven't reached that far yet." all right, sorry, Pebble. So they reach the end of the forest. Pebble bids them good night. And now, all the creatures seem to just be gone. And that is when Misty turns to Cloud and says, "You know what? I think they're afraid of electricity. Not in the absurd sense, but because if you look under this light, none of them are there, but in the shadows around it, there seems to be many. Quite interesting." So just as they're walking back into campus, finally back in brackets, civilization, different civilization, human civilization, they walk back and they realize that what they just experienced was possibly all a dream. They get back to the dormitory. They go their separate ways to get ready for dinner. Cloud obviously does the proper thing and invites Misty for dinner, makes some nice food, and they go on with their chat, just casually talking about what happened. And as they're speaking, and, mentioning dragons and dryads and twinks and all these other creatures that met them, Pebble, their new friend, something quite, strange happens. You see, they mention his name, and someone turns around in the dormitory and says, "You know Pebble?" "Yes." Wait, who's Pebble to you?" they ask him. "Oh, so you see, not that long ago, I got lost in the woods, and this soft voice just guided me out the woods. And when I asked him for a name, he just simply said his name was Pebble. And I asked him why he helped me, and he said, well, that's his job. He guides people out of the woods when they get lost." "Wow," says Misty, that's quite impressive. That's actually what happened to us today. And he's a very nice person. We actually got to see him, and he told us about his children, and it was quite lovely." "Ooh," says the newcomer in their conversation. "Well, I didn't get to see him. I asked him if I could, but he said that would be a bit too shocking. I'm guessing, considering the softness of his footsteps, he was probably some mythical elf or something." Cloud just can't hold it in. He booms out with laughter and just says, "Oh, if you'd actually seen him, he'd love it if you say that. No, he's very much made of stone and quite large." "With a name like Pebble?" "Yes, with a name like Pebble. Don't get him started on names. He went on for almost 20 minutes about that. He does not like his name that much. But, that being said, that's his name, that's the one he was given, so he deals with it." "Oh, well, all right. Well, good night to both of you. Enjoy your dinner." And off he goes. No doors open. He just disappears. And it's at that moment they realize that the person they were talking to was not a tenant of the dormitory, but in fact, just another mythical creature living nearby. Now, our tales are going to take us much further than white clay, much further than these dragons and dryads. But do remember that at the end of the day, the most important part was the first encounter they had with Mist the Eternal. Because you see, he told them something quite miraculous, and that is, you should never entirely dismiss stories, because in all stories lays some small part of truth. Thank you very much for listening, everyone. I really appreciate your listening to, well, that long story. It was a great pleasure to have you here. For anyone who watched this live, that was also very nice. And I will definitely be seeing you, or at least you'll be hearing me for the next part. If you wish to support my work and help me to continue to make these episodes, please do consider becoming one of my patrons on Patreon. I would definitely appreciate that a lot. You can find the link to that on basically everywhere. And honestly, if you liked what you heard, I would love your comments. Thank you very much and have a great evening.